It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Very good to have you in studio today. We're talking local state parks once again. We've got two parks we're going to talk about that are under one control. Red Rock State Park and the Jerome State Historic Park. Keith Ayotte is in studio today. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
You manage both of those parks?
Yes. And
then Dee Wolf's in studio. He's the volunteer coordinator for Red Rock State Park.
That's correct.
Correct. Welcome to the studio. Great to have you. I love talking about our local state parks. You know, when Ryan had this idea at the beginning of May, I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And it's been a lot of fun to learn about the local state parks.
Right.
And kind of reintroduce myself to them and hopefully the listeners and the viewers as well. Now, we thought we'd talk Red Rock State Park first. And some people may or may not know where that is. So why don't we start with that? Just where is Red Rock State Park? Because I think people may get concerned or confused with Slide Rock State Park.
Correct.
Yeah.
Actually, the biggest confusion tends to lie with Red Rock Crossing and Crescent Moon, which is only a few miles away from us.
See, that was going to be one of my questions too. Is that part of Red Rock State Park?
No,
oh, it's not.
No,
okay.
Two complete separate entities.
Okay.
They're Forest Service, run by a private concessionaire, and then of course you got Red Rock State Park, which is run by the state. Now, as far as getting to it, it's one that you should first stop going into Sedona from Cottonwood. You'll see the very first signs you see are for Red Rock State Park, and it's just right off 89A. As soon as you get off of 89A in the lower Red Rock Loop Road, it's about 3 miles from 89A, and you're right there at our entry gate.
How big is the park?
The park is about 285 acres.
Okay.
We have about 5 miles worth of hiking trails inside of it. So you can do half a mile, quarter mile, or you can do all 5 miles if you like. So you can do any type of hike that you like to do. We
just talked about Dead Horse Ranch State Park, and we talked about trails, and then it kind of occurred to me, what kind of shape do I have to be in for these trails?
Good question. You don't have to be in very good shape because, like I said,
yeah,
we have light to moderate type trails. Now, if you want to do our upper loop, which takes you about 300-foot elevation change, you should be in somewhat decent shape.
Oh, wow, okay.
But we have a lot of great easy trails for you.
What else is at Red Rock State Park? Outside of totally beautiful scenery.
Right. Well, we do a lot of programming. We've got what we call the Connections program, which is our education program that we do for school groups from kindergarten to high school, but our predominant group tends to be your elementary school type kids, middle school. Almost every day in May, we've got a group coming in during a weekday. Then we've got bird hikes every Wednesday and Saturday.
Wow.
The times tend to change on that, but June 1st, they'll be going to 7 o'clock. And then we have at 10 o'clock, well, actually it's going to be 9 o'clock after June 1st, nature hike every day, led by one of our volunteers. And that's, again, that's a really light to moderate hike. Just about anybody can do those types of hikes.
Busy there?
Surprisingly, I thought maybe this fire here was going to curb down our business, but it's been actually quite steady. And Memorial Day weekend was a nice busy weekend for us, so yeah, it has been really busy.
How long has Red Rock State Park been around?
It became a park in 1991.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's relatively new. I mean, does that be considered new?
As far as state parks go, it's relatively new, yes.
How'd that process take place?
Well, it was Bruce Babbitt actually had an interest in the property when it was owned by the previous owners.
Who was that?
Bruce Babbitt, or the previous owners.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Bruce Babbitt came across, he was hiking in that area. The Babbitt name is quite prominent in this area. Oh, yeah. It wasn't a park at the time, but Bruce Babbitt was into politics here in Arizona, fell in love with it, and just knew that it had to go into the state parks inventory somehow. And then through negotiations and wheeling and dealing, it actually became a state park. And then we took it over back in 1991, and its mission has changed very little since then. It's an environmental education park. It's a protected habitat area, so if you come to the park, more than likely you'll see some sort of wildlife, deer, javelina, lots of bird life on the park as well too. So.
Really? Okay, so that park's main focus is just the environment and wildlife.
Correct. There's no swimming on the park. That's an important thing to get across.
Okay, no swimming.
Right. So if you're looking for a high impact recreation, Red Rock Crossing is more where you should go. We're more just environmentally education, that sort of thing. So I think that's a good thing. So when you're hiking trails, you don't have a lot of kids screaming in the water and splashing. It's usually really nice and serene down there.
So a lot of science classes and biology classes probably come out there and take a look at. Okay.
Yeah, and like this this Friday we have an astronomy stargazing event going on this evening. So yeah, we're really science, environmental ed conscious.
Excellent, excellent. And you said how big is the park?
About 285 acres.
Now, can you walk the whole way around that?
Not really, but there's a good half of the park that you can. Then we have other areas that are developed, like a Twin Cypress campground area, and then we have protected habitat. We've got nesting common blackhawks. Of course, you can't go hiking in those areas, but there's a good portion of the park that you can hike on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, Dee, you're a very instrumental piece of Red Rock State Park. Without you, apparently, it would not be running very well.
Well, I'm just one of many. The nice thing about this park, we have a very good volunteer program. We have about 80 volunteers.
Wow, that's
all
a lot.
local. They come from just about all of the communities of the Verde Valley that support the park and come in. And I just happen to be the one that sort of does the coordination and leading like that, but the work is carried on by all of the volunteers. The programs that Keith was just mentioning, most of the visitor programs are actually manned and led by the volunteers. So they're the ones that came up with it, they're the ones that lead it, and this is a varied mix throughout the day. Even the school program, just to let them know, even though it's accredited, all of the leaders are volunteers who lead all of those classes. So when the schools come out, volunteers are right there to do all the teaching and everything.
So how do they learn all this?
Each year we have a training program.
Okay.
Our next one's coming up in September, October. So we will start making appeals soon for volunteers to come in that would like to join and be volunteers. We'll give them the dates of the program. It goes over 6 weeks, but it's 1 day a week, afternoon. But in that, we give them a pretty thorough introduction to things that they will see and experience around the park. So geology, archaeology, and other things like that, as well as history of the park and as Arizona State Parks and so on. So when they go through that, they come out feeling, they have a good introduction to the park, and they're willing to step into these various roles. Hike leading, teaching the program, working in maintenance, manning the entry station or the visitor center, gift shop, and so on like that. So they're trained up. We give them that introduction, and then when they come in, we have a great team then that carries on all of these different programs.
When did you volunteer?
I joined and went through the training program in 2001.
Okay. What do you like about it so much?
Two things. One, the setting is great, but other thing is just...
What's great?
The setting.
The setting.
The park and everything like that. It's just beautiful. First off, that's going to catch your eye, and you just love to go out and be there and see the things around. But the second thing is just the volunteer community itself. We have a great bunch of volunteers, and working with them is just... I think if you talk to any of them, you'll find that that's one of the primary benefits that they feel, that it's a team that they really enjoy being a part of. And from that, their work together and their contribution makes the park what it is. And I think that pride and experience and cooperation with other volunteers is just one of the real rewards that a volunteer takes away from the job there.
Since we are talking volunteers, I mentioned we kind of talk about this towards the end of the show, but since we're here and you're talking so well about this, now, if I were to volunteer, this is always something that people are concerned about. How many hours do I have to give you a week, a month? How much time do I have to
We ask them to try to put in about 96 hours a year. Okay. So that averages out to about 8 hours a month. But we don't expect them to be there. Many of these are mostly seniors. So they travel during the year. Some are gone for the summer. And so when they're there, they work. When they're gone, they're out. But if we can get them, they do try to work up to that. Now many, because they just love the park and getting involved in things, they may put in 150 to 250 hours in a year. But roughly around that 90 to 95 hours a year is sort of what we would like for them to target for.
And then you have to coordinate all those volunteers.
Yes. Yeah. We schedule, some of the things are pre-scheduled so they know when they're going to do it. Others, they can just, if they want to come in, they just check and see if there's an opening that no one else has spoken for that particular thing that day, and they'll sign up for it and come in that way. So it's very flexible. The nice thing about it, the volunteers, even though many of them will get into a very routine way of coming to the park, It's very flexible, so it's not like a job that you have. You can pick your days or come when you feel like it, or if you know that something's coming up, you can say, I'll participate or I'll help with that, and you sign up for it and you come in. So that flexibility, I think, is also what really makes it easy for them to want to do it, because they're not locked into anything.
Right, exactly. All right, we'll take our first break already. Okay, we're talking about Red Rock State Park and Jerome State Historic Park. I got to make sure I say that right. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to Countywide. Great to have you in studio today. We just got done talking about Red Rock State Park. A great place to go for more information about the parks we've been talking about over this month is azstateparks.gov. If you go there, you can find out any kind of information you want about any of the state parks in the state. So let's move on, though. Keith Ayotte is actually in charge of 2 state parks. That's got to be kind of challenging.
It is challenging, but I have to say Red Rock probably takes up 90% of my time. I have a very competent assistant manager up in Jerome who takes care of most of the business up there for me, so it's doable right now.
And we're moving to Jerome right now. We're going to talk about James Douglas Mansion.
Correct.
And I was telling you guys, I don't think I've ever been in that mansion.
Well, as I was telling you earlier, I believe it should be your very first visit when you go into Jerome. It gives you the history, why the town is there, what was happening in the town. We get a lot of visitors who come see us after they've been in the town. They come in around 3:30, 4 o'clock, decide to drop in on their way out. And that's almost their number one comment every single time is we should have come here first.
Well, when you visit the mansion, does it kind of connect the dots?
Exactly, and that's what I tell people who are indecisive of whether or not they want to go in. I say, well, you know, once you come in here an hour and a half, and you go into town, you're going to appreciate the town a lot more because the buildings are going to start making sense to you why that building is there. So
as I head up to Jerome, Douglas Mansion is just off on the right.
What happens? You go through all the switchbacks. As soon as the road levels out, you've got the high school to the left, which is you can't miss that landmark.
Tight curve at the top there.
Right. Road levels out. Very first sign you see is Jerome, and then you see another one pointing to the right for the mansion.
Okay, so that's the first thing we should hit. Yeah. Tell me about the Douglas Mansion. How long has it been there? Who built it and all that good stuff?
The mansion was actually donated by the Douglas family back in 1961. They were trying to sell it for $10,000 and couldn't get anybody to buy it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right.
Really?
And of course,
oh my gosh.
Jerome in the 50s and 60s was a ghost town. So they decided to donate it to the state and turn it into a museum.
That is so funny.
So in '63, it opened up as a museum, and has been in our possession ever since. But the great thing about the museum, it interprets James Douglas and the Douglas mining operation, but it also interprets the town itself. It also interprets Clark, which there's not a whole lot of information about him out there.
William Clark?
William Clark.
From Clarkdale?
Correct.
Okay.
And also we have a really neat 30-minute video that gives you a really nice history lesson of the town. It's entertaining as well. It'll just go over from the beginning, the very first mining claim, to what the town is like today and how it got there.
So tell me who James Douglas is.
James Douglas bought the Little Daisy extension, which was one of the two major mining operations going on at the time. When he bought it, it was on the fringes of closing, and when he bought it, it took him quite a few years to get it to be profitable. In fact, he was on the verge of closing himself before they hit the mother lode, so to speak. And then, of course, he made his millions off of it once they found the large body of copper up there.
Wow. So how big is the mansion? How many rooms? All that good stuff in there?
Yeah, good question. The mansion itself is about 8,500 square feet.
Wow.
Of course, all the rooms are now exhibit space. It wasn't actually a primary home for James Douglas.
It wasn't his main home?
No.
Oh, okay. Where did he live?
Well, he kind of floated around to different operations.
He had the cash flow to do it, though.
Oh, yeah, and he was a world traveler, too. He'd been to China, to France. He was all over the place. But it was he'd send his business associates up there. Then he would take some family trips and vacations up there as well. But it was not a primary home, but it was staffed all the time with his servants and that sort of thing.
So I suppose once he hit the mother lode, and it was established, there was really no reason for him to be there all the time. I'm sure he had people working for him that took care of it.
From what I understand, he did not see the day-to-day operations. He had his managers and supervisors doing that, reporting back to him.
Tell me about the stuff inside the house. What's in there? I mean, and right down to furniture and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
well, we don't have a lot of the historic furniture. We do have one room, though, the library room, that is historically accurate and has a lot of the furniture from him in that period, and some of the books and the accounting books and that sort of thing. The rest of the place is mostly exhibit space. We've got great photographs from. One thing about Jerome is probably one of the most photographed towns, mining towns that I've seen.
It's got to be.
There's thousands of photographs of Jerome, and we've got a lot of those photos. We've got Clark's smelter when it was up in Jerome, and we got the tear down process of it when he moved it down to Clarkdale. Lots of pictures of the Little Daisy extension, the mining operation. A lot of pictures of the town itself. The video also has a lot of neat footage of the town, the vehicles they were driving, the parades they were having.
There was a lot of people that lived in Jerome at one time.
Correct.
Far more than is even there today.
From what I understand, it was the third largest city in Jerome at one point in time, or in Arizona,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And it was the county seat at one point in time as well. And it had over 15,000 people living there.
Isn't that amazing, up on the side of that hill?
Yeah. I don't know where they put everybody, because there's 450 now, and it seems pretty compact as it is.
Yeah. The construction is unique in Jerome. Is that discussed at all?
Not really. I mean, I think the construction is just...
It just had to be that way.
It had to be that way, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did he have a big family?
He had quite a few kids, and the family itself was pretty large, and they're still quite prominent today. A lot of them are lawyers and have done very well. They still donate to the park from time to time. In fact, a few years ago, they donated over $20,000 to the park, which we redid that video that I was speaking about. The video itself was over 20 years old, and we redid it in high definition. We got Ken Michaels, who's a local talent here. He was around, so we got him back as the ghost. If you've seen the video, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And then we got the original producer who did the video 22 years ago to redo this one, so it all came together. So the video is new, it's updated, high definition, the whole 9 yards.
I'll be darned. It's funny that in 1961 they couldn't sell that mansion, 8,500 square feet, you said?
Yeah, it's
for $10,000.
Yeah, it's in pretty rough shape.
But ghost town.
Right.
Today, what would that mansion be worth, I wonder?
Oh, boy. Well, based on the real estate prices I've seen, I'd say probably $3, $4, maybe $5 million.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Just amazing.
as it sits right now.
Now, how long was the Daisy mine in operation? Do you know that?
Good question. I know it ceased operation in '38, I believe, but it had people were tinkering with it since the teens, 1910, 12.
I can find more. I can find more.
Yeah, and he purchased it, I believe, 14, 15, 1915 is when he hit it. And then he built the mansion shortly after that, and it stayed in operation until '38.
So that is a good note for all of us. The first thing you should do is go check out James Douglas Mansion when you hit Jerome, and then the rest of the sightseeing you do up there.
Right.
And the historical. The whole place is just history.
Right.
It's just history sitting on the side of that hill. It's
Correct.
really amazing.
Well, and the views from there are spectacular.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I've been all over the country. In that parking lot, you can see Flagstaff, and then you've just got a unique view of Jerome
You can see
itself.
the peaks from there, can't you?
You can.
Yeah, you sure can. We're going to take a break. azstateparks.gov. That is a great website to go to find out about any state park in Arizona. Stick around, Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Ronnie had huge aspirations.
He knew he could get pills in the community.
He found his body in an apartment in Telford.
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom.
We talk about all the common drugs, but never prescription medication.
I was addicted to pills.
Had I more knowledge, I would have done things differently.
Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got a couple minutes left in the program. Again, azstateparks.gov is a great location to go to find out more information about what we've been talking about all month. We've had quite a few different state parks in this month. It's been really interesting. Coming up on May 30th, the Star Night Party is taking place at Red Rock State Park. A few things to jot down. June 13th, moonlight hike and lunar viewing with telescopes. June 21st, Yavapai Apache Nation Cultural Awareness Day. And then on June 22nd is Working in the Salt Mine, Native American Salt Procurement and Ritual in the Southwest. Oh, that sounds really interesting there. And then we want to mention the bird hikes, because Red Rock State Park is really known about their bird hikes and bird watching.
It is. It's very popular. Yeah. And it's a great place. Birders recognize that it is. And in fact, the Audubon Society has recognized it and given it the distinction of being an important birding area. So the bird walks in the summer, starting June the 1st, I believe, will be 7 o'clock in the morning, Wednesdays and Saturday mornings.
Okay, all right. Anything else did you want to make sure we hit? The Jerome. When is that open?
The park actually opens at 8 o'clock. The grounds do. The museum opens up at 8:30. Mm-hmm. The last admittance allowed into the museum is at 4:30. But if you're in there already, you can stay till 5.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we want to make sure we have folks that can do all of that stuff. And then volunteers. We always need volunteers, Dee. What's the best way to get a hold of you and say, hey, you know what? I think I'd like to volunteer.
Again, on the website, there's a contact point there. And if they will leave their name, we'll get contact with them, give them the information. We will be publicizing later when we set the dates and so on. It will be coming up in September, October, so they can sort of bracket that period. And as soon as we firm up the dates, we'll get that out so that it has general distribution.
For the volunteers that come in, is there some big changes that occur at the park between what's going on during the summertime and what goes on at the wintertime, or same programs?
It's pretty much the same program.
Okay.
So that's the nice thing about it. There's consistency there. We try to keep programs going all the time. So there's not very much impact by weather or seasonal. Mm-hmm. And so we can get them out on the trails, hiking. They can come in almost any time as well. So that there's always an opportunity to use the trails personally if they want to do that. There's a few self-guided hikes that they can take. And so either they can go on something that's organized or they can come in and just entertain themselves. And it's also a great place for picnicking too. They can come out.
Yeah.
We have several great picnic areas shaded. so they can come out and just enjoy the day. And each one of those picnic sites has a beautiful view, so sitting there couldn't be better.
It's got to be really tough to find a good view at the Sedona area, right?
Well, that's right.
Yeah, got to work hard.
You have to almost turn around, turn your back to not see something somewhere. It's hard to do.
Right on. All right, D. Wolf, good meeting you.
Thank you.
Keith the Yacht, very good to meet you as well.
You too, Paul.
You guys have a marvelous day. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.